Hey, you can get some cool and fun rewards for helping me help kids. Stick around after the video for more information. Our friends over at SPECULATIVEFaith.com are lending us another article, this one from a while back, but I thought maybe especially appropriate right about now. It's titled Horror and Philippians 4:8, written by R.L. Koppel and published originally January 27th, 2015. Koppel writes, "It isn't uncommon, especially if the subject is horror stories by Christians, for someone in a discussion to quote the following verse to conclude why Christians should avoid writing and reading anything that might focus on evil, death, or gore. Philippians 4:8, quote, 'Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things.' Presented out of context, it would appear to be a biblical command to avoid thinking about the formerly mentioned concepts. The following are 5 reasons why the use of this verse to denounce the darker elements of fiction is a misapplication of its contextual meaning. Number 1, this verse is a general principle, not a command. In the context Paul is applying this verse, he is exhorting his listeners on how they should conduct themselves. It is obvious this is a general principle and not a command, for the simple reason if we followed it as an absolute command to not think on its opposites, none of us would pay our bills, disciple our children, or take out the trash. Number 2, the converse of the verse is not necessarily true. Notice Paul does not say, don't think on these things, death, evil, ugly stuff, violence. He is rightly suggesting that we should think of these virtuous things. He is not saying we shouldn't ever think on anything else. To do so is putting words in his mouth he didn't say. Number 3, the Bible itself would violate this quote-unquote commandment. The Bible has a healthy dose of focusing on evil and sin. People are brutally killed. Evil kings reign over God's chosen people for years. Even the central focus of the gospel involves deceit, scourgings, mockery, and violent deaths. Not only Jesus Christ's on the cross, but even depicting the death of Judas as him falling into a field and his bowels falling out in Acts 1:18. To apply this verse consistently to fiction, as some do, would require throwing away the Bible as well. Number 4, as an absolute quote-unquote commandment, it would prevent Christians from ministering and addressing the many evil circumstances most all experience in this life. Indeed, if this was a commandment to not think about evil, it would result in ignoring the vast suffering caused by sin so we could retreat into our idealistic bubble. Hey, wait a minute, a lot of Christians do that. Okay, just note it prevents us from fulfilling Jesus' commands to love one another as he has loved us. We become the priest, the Pharisee, and the scribe who pass by the bleeding Samaritan on the side of the road. Number 5, you can't know the good without knowing the bad. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is called that for a reason. The two go together. A focus on one highlights the other. That is why Stephen King, in his book Danse Macabre, said of horror, "Horror movies do not love death, as some have suggested. They love life. They do not celebrate deformity, but by dwelling on deformity, they sing of health and energy. By showing us the miseries of the damned, they help us rediscover the smaller joys of our own lives. They are the barber's leeches of the psyche, drawing not bad blood, but anxiety. For a little while, anyway. The deeper the darkness, the more brightly the light shines. Balance is the issue. Certainly it would be bad for anyone to only focus on the bad and evil without thinking about the good and the virtuous. Likewise, without focusing and thinking about evil regularly, we become like Adam and Eve, who, having taken God's bountiful goodness for granted, coveted what they didn't have. Because they couldn't appreciate the evil, they couldn't appreciate the good, not until they lost it. I'm not advocating that we gorge ourselves on evil, gore, and horror. I'm not suggesting that any one person is wrong if they've decided to avoid certain fictional horrors. I am suggesting Paul's statement in Philippians 4:8 is about balance, not an either-or scenario, and that people who refuse to stare evil in the face also tend to not think about the good as often. Ironically, making this verse out to be a commandment not to think about the horrors of evil end up leading those same people to violate the true intent of the verse, to spend time thinking on those good things of God. The next time someone whips that verse out to prove Christians shouldn't partake or write such material, point them here. Maybe they'll buy a clue. Okay, choir, did I miss any key points? Interesting stuff, some interesting thoughts. I'd love to hear how you guys would react to that and his treatment of Philippians 4:8. And you can find that article, again, titled Horror and Philippians 4:8, along with a ton of other great content over at SPECULATIVEFaith.com. For my 7th consecutive year, I'm participating in Extra Life, a charity event that raises funds to provide medical care for children in urgent need. I'm also leading the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team, which you're still welcome to join by following the link in the description below. Once again this year, I'm drawing attention to our team's fundraising by performing a 24-hour marathon of video gaming that I will stream live on youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral and ChristianGeekCentral.com beginning 5 a.m. Pacific Time on Saturday, November 7th. You can donate on my page or any team member's page by following the links below, where you will also find incentives and rewards for doing so. On my page, for example, for a donation of $5, you can choose a topic to add to my +3 page of many topics that I'll be blabbing my opinions on during the live stream. For $10, you get the previous reward and a download code for a free copy of the Spirit Blade Special Edition audio drama. For $20, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a game for me to play during my November 7th live stream. Pick a favorite or torture me with something terrible or rage-inducingly difficult. For $30, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a song for me to sing during my November 7th live stream. Pick an old favorite of yours or just make me humiliate and torture myself with something nobody wants to hear. And for $50 or more, you get the previous rewards and a download code for every MP3 product at spiritblade.com. That's an $80 value. On top of that, I have set fundraising milestones that will unlock strange and unusual happenings as I reach them. At $200, I'll have a free download day for everyone who visits spiritblade.com on November 11th. And as my total goes beyond $200, I'll unlock increasingly more content for the free download day. And depending how far beyond $200 my fundraising goes, during my November 7th live stream, I will show embarrassing clips of a movie I made in college with fellow Spirit Blade actor Michael Tully, put on a pair of Frozen socks and a Frozen t-shirt at the same time, shoot water up my nose with a turkey baster, and have my wife Holly play a video game with me for 30 minutes. And if I reach a personal fundraising total of $500 or more, I will face my greatest and most hated enemy in video gaming. I will finally beat Super Mario Bros. Without using cheat codes by the end of 2020, publishing video of my efforts and eventual success, and also make my first attempts during my Extra Life marathon. I freaking hate that game, but I will do this for those kids and their families and for you sadistic people who donate money to make it happen. Now, there are some stipulations and time limits on those rewards and milestones, so quickly follow the link below to my fundraising page for all the details. I hope you will be a part of helping me and the Christian Geek Central team do some good for some kids and families who really need it. And then I hope you'll join me at youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral for my 24-hour video gaming marathon starting 5 a.m. Pacific Time on Saturday, November 7th. Hope to see you then.